right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. We will go ahead and call our work session into order. Our first item of business is our monthly budget update from CFO Pickle.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
So this is the monthly update through June. This is not exactly the year-end update, but close enough. This is last month of the year, the fiscal year. If you notice at the bottom of the first page, I think you guys all had gotten emails, attachments. We're at 99% of the revenue that we had budgeted to collect for this year. We only collected $157,760 less than what we estimated that we were going to collect. So that's really
And
good.
that was based on delinquent tax collections?
Some of it, some of the other line items were over as well. Right?
That's good to hear.
Yeah, so we're at 99% of revenue for the year, which is very, very good. On the other side of the coin, we're at 94% for the expenditures, which means we spent $714,115 less than we had budgeted. So that is very, very good. We almost made up the difference. We had budgeted to spend or to use $206,000 of general fund balance. And we actually estimated, we still probably have a couple more invoices yet to come in. Everybody's done really well with it. Estimated use of fund balance this year will be only $75,000.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Way to go. That's incredible.
And all the other funds look really good as well. There are no funds that were over. Some of them were just like right on the money, really. But overall, very, very good. Everybody did really good this year. Even though we were belt tightening in the general fund, the other funds felt that as well.
Yes.
So, and it worked out there.
Impressive.
Awesome.
Wow, thank you. Any questions or comments from Ms. Pickle?
Just bravo team.
Absolutely.
It was filmed.
Incredible. Oh, absolutely, it was felt. Okay, next item of business, present report on debt obligation for capital outlay note 2026, agenda item 26-895, Ms. Pickle.
Okay. Hello again. This is the report on the debt obligation, which is the latest issuance of debt that we got. It was on the 26th of June, so it was right at the end of the fiscal year. Again, it's $540,000. It was $110,000 for solid waste, $200,000 for State Street Aid, and $230,000 for general fund public works department. We had a 3.79% interest rate, which is very, very good. I'm really pleased with that. The maturity date is going to be 6/1/2031, so it closes out right at the end of the 2031 fiscal year. And I think that's pretty much it. We're just required to present this debt report to the commission. You notice on the very last page, page 4, says date to be presented at public meeting. 7/17, date to be emailed. So, and all the issues.
Thank you. Do you, just as a reminder for folks here, do you have the items that are being purchased with those loan funds?
So in solid waste, we purchased 2 trucks and 1 trailer. State Street Aid, we purchased the dump truck with the salt spreader and the snow plow attachment. And general fund public works, we purchased 2 trucks, 1 tractor with a mowing boom, and a portable air compressor.
Thank you, Ms. Pickle. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to item 3, commission update on the Safe Streets for All grant application. Director Tate.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I prepared a narrative about the Safe Streets for All grant and what's transpired over the last several months to include the adoption of the CIP. The City of Red Bank was honored to receive a fiscal year 2025 Safe Streets for All grant award through the Federal Highway Administration. This grant represented a valuable opportunity to advance transportation safety initiatives throughout our community and align closely with the city's commitment to creating safer roadways for motorists, pedestrians, and cyclists. Since receiving notice of the award, city leadership from Public Works, Community Development, Administration, and Finance, along with the city manager, has undertaken a thorough review of the city's long-term financial obligations through the development and adoption of the capital improvements program. As part of this process, staff carefully evaluated current and future infrastructure, utility, public safety, and municipal service needs over the next 5 years. While the goals of the Safe Streets for All program remain strongly supported by staff, this evaluation determined that the local financial commitment required to support a project of this size was not financially feasible when balanced against other critical capital priorities facing the community. The decision was not made lightly. Staff recognized the significant value of the SS4A program and its mission to improve transportation safety. However, as a municipality with finite financial resources, Red Bank must ensure that available funding is directed toward the highest priority needs identified through the CIP process after careful consideration. City leadership concluded that redirecting limited capital resources toward other immediate priorities is in the best interest of Red Bank residents at this time. Accordingly, staff formally notified the Federal Highway Administration on July 1st, 2026 of this decision to withdraw from pursuing the FY25 Safe Streets for All grant award. In doing so, the city expressed its sincere appreciation for the opportunity afforded through the program and emphasized its continued support for the objectives of the SS4A initiative. The city also conveyed its desire to remain eligible for future opportunities as the capital improvement program matures and a more sustainable local funding strategy can be established. In response, Mr. Jackson, a grants and local programs coordinator with the Federal Highway Administration, acknowledged the city's decision and confirmed that Federal Highway Administration would process the formal withdrawal request, noting that no additional action was required from the city. More importantly, Mr. Jackson encouraged Red Bank not to allow this decision to deter future participation in federal transportation funding opportunities. He specifically stated that the city should continue pursuing future competitive grant programs offered by the Federal Highway Administration, and advised that Red Bank would be added to future notification and distribution lists to ensure awareness of upcoming funding opportunities. While it is disappointing to forego a grant opportunity of this nature, the decision reflects the city's responsibilities to exercise sound financial stewardship and align future commitments with available resources and identified priorities. The city's withdrawal should not be viewed as a retreat from transportation safety efforts, but rather a strategic decision to ensure that future grant pursuits are supported by strong financial framework and long-term implementation plans. Red Bank remains committed to improving safety throughout the community and intends to continue seeking state and federal funding opportunities that align with the city's evolving needs and financial capacity. And that was the basis of the conversation that transpired between myself and Mr. Jackson through emails and other dialogue. And I'll be putting this on the website for public record, so that it stays out there in front of us.
Thank you so much, Director Sadie. All right, moving on to item 4, public chapter 1048, Mr. Stoltz.
Thank you. Among a lot of other legislative changes, one of the ones that is particularly applicable to municipalities is now in a limited ability to conduct executive session hiring interviews and discussions for director level or above personnel. The thought behind it being, it's really difficult for a person in one city or another to make a lateral move to a different municipality, either to or from Red Bank, when the people in the municipality from which that person or other governmental entity may come, it knows you're out there looking for another position. So it allows that sort of information, salary discussions, and even the desire to move to remain confidential. It's an exception to what we call the Sunshine Law, the Open Meetings Act. And I think it's a good thing. It will allow some flexibility for interviewing and dealing with potential police chiefs or or fire chiefs or city managers or that sort of thing.
But not police chiefs, actually, they're excluded, correct?
You're right.
Okay.
You're right, police chiefs. I'm sorry, you were ahead of me there. But, it does say specifically excluding the chief of police. So it's a good and needed change that recognizes a real limitation that municipalities have been under, and frankly, for the people involved. So the next time we want to snark a really good employee from Spring City or somebody, they don't have to let it be known, and we don't have to let it known that we're talking to them unless they are hired, and then it all becomes public.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz.
That's all I have to present.
Okay. The one that, the other piece that I thought was interesting is that, it's not automatic.
Right.
The candidate has to elect into
Exactly.
that confidential
Yeah.
interview process.
And so it's not the municipality's
Mhm.
call, it is the potential applicant's decision to request that.
Yes. Thank you so much. I think this is really helpful. This is something the Vice Mayor and I talked to Senator Watson about 5 years ago. Just for reasons of people wanting to maybe move into a new position and not wanting all of that to be public record until they knew for sure they were getting the job. And at the time, he just said there was no political will for that. So I'm glad to see that that has changed in the past 5 years. I think it will help improve candidate pools for municipalities across the state. Thank you, Mr. Stoltz. Any other questions or comments about that public chapter? All right, moving on to our consent agenda items. Item 5, reappoint Lizanne Bowling to the Nonprofit Citizens Advisory Board for a 2-year term. Resolution number 26-1917. Director Slade.
Thank you. This is more housekeeping efforts. Since the inception of this advisory board, this will be coming up on our 3rd year. So they are very in-depth reviewing our recent round of applications. We have a deadline actually this Friday to get those back to us. So they're still working along for this last year. But again, this is housekeeping for her to maintain her position on that advisory board, and she's willing to step up and continue.
Thank you. Any questions on that structure? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Bowling, for continuing to serve.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Slade. Moving on to item 6, on our consent agenda, application for a certificate of compliance for Red Bank Wine and Spirits located at 3849 Dayton Boulevard, resolution number 26-1918. Director Perry.
This is for an ownership change, still staying within the same family. We're just shifting it over to the husband and wife. It just needs a certificate of compliance to get their liquor license with the state.
Okay. So that's all that's changing, just the owners. Okay. Any questions or comments about that? And they know to be here at the regular meeting.
But there's not usually a.
Oh, they don't have to be here for that? Okay, excellent. All right, moving on to item 7 on our consent agenda, approve the Trust for Public Land contract for up to $50,000 and scope of work presentation, resolution -26-1919. Director Tate.
I'm standing in for Jeffrey Gravy, who is the expert on all things parks, trails, and recreations in the city of Red Bank. This is, as it says, we're bringing forward a resolution authorizing the continuation and renewal of the city's on-call parks and recreation support services agreement with Trust for Public Lands for FY27. This agreement is not to exceed $50,000 and continues a successful partnership previously authorized by the commission. I think we can all testify to some of a lot of the good work that TPL has done for the city. When you think about all the trails they've helped us open, the acquisition, soon-to-be acquisition of the area above Waterford Park, their input and the processes they helped us with for the Godsey Ridge Trail, and they're working on the Stringers Ridge Connector 2.0 and other things. And so, we get a lot of support. So this agreement is a continuation of last year's agreement, and the scope of work is included in the back of your packet attached to this. All the services they provide. And this was budgeted in the FY27 budget, and will be paid out in four $12,500 increments quarterly as we go throughout the year. And I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Questions? Director Kate? Yes.
Yeah, he's always close enough to get hold of.
Maybe we can get a little discount for GP.
Thank you, Director
Thank you.
Kate. All right, moving on to item 8 on our consent agenda, approve agreement with Central Technologies, Inc. for surveillance integration, access control, and duress button, resolution number 26-1920, Director Tate.
Thank you again, Mayor. So, Commissioners, we have a hodgepodge of access control and video surveillance throughout the city, the police department, the fire department, limited at public works facility. We have some access control and video at the community center, but everything was on different systems, different cameras, some of it's old technology, some of it's newer technology. So as part of our facilities improvement plan adopted through use of ARPA funds, Justin Hedrick submitted an RFP and took proposals from, I think there were 8 different agencies that came and inspected the facilities. And Central Technologies was the second lowest, but was the only one in the lower price range that hit the mark. And this includes cameras, mag locks, any access point. You know, it consolidates all of our platforms and upgrades all of our platforms into one type of service, so that we don't have this alarm system over here, this camera system over there, and they will be coming in and replacing pretty much everything. Now, this is a $94,000 price tag, and that includes a 10% contingency because, for instance, when they came into this building, they got to looking at some of the wiring. A lot of the wiring is hidden behind walls and panels that are going to have to be removed, and they may find that there's some extra work or some updated equipment that's unseen that has to be replaced. But that will take place, and it's not going to be come in one week and be done. It's going to take probably several months to make all these changes across the city. But it will simplify everything. It will give the directors or those facility occupants a dashboard where they can monitor things easier than they can right now with the different types of systems that we have. And I did mention this was paid for out of ARPA funds.
Perfect. Any questions or comments on that? Nope. Okay. Thank you, Director Tate. Moving on to item 9 on our consent agenda, presentation and approval of the Charter Review Citizens Advisory Board report regarding amendment of the city charter via home rule, resolution number 26-1921, City Manager Brandon and Chairperson Giselle Palmer.
Hello, Mayor and Commission. I'm super jazzed to be here with Giselle, and also we have another member of the CAB, Chad, right there. As you'll see, as we provide this presentation, I won't get ahead of myself, but Giselle and I did not have a chance to practice, so this is the first version of this.
No problem.
Giselle, please use to standing up in front of a crowd. Myself and Giselle, am I clicking, Tracy? Okay. There we go. Okay, so the purpose of the charter review was established by this commission, Resolution 1916. We stood up the Citizen Advisory Board to review and modernize our charter. The need for modernization, it was complex. It did 26 years, and actually we discovered it's supposed to happen every 5 years. When you're a home rule city, nothing can change your charter except the voters. It doesn't automatically update with sessions of the legislature. So if you don't change it, it goes stale. It's been 26 years. It was Giselle and her colleagues on the committee, with Arnold and I, we did a heavy lift in a very short amount of time. The goal was to provide a modern charter in alignment with Tennessee law for voter consideration on the 3rd of November. And that was the goal set out by the commission in that earlier resolution I referenced. And it represents a commitment to self-governance. A lot of cities are created by the state. The city of Redmond was created by the people of Redmond, and we're a home rule city. And that's kind of cool. There's only 14 in the state of Tennessee. So we're pretty special. There's 345 cities, We're one of 14 that are created by the people. And I think that's really cool. And there's where we met up at Fire Station 2. That was all set up for action before any of us arrived. Is that what that first one?
No, that's good.
Okay. Okay, so who was it? Diverse membership. There were 8 citizens. The commission allowed that it could be between 5 and 8. We had a very strong response in a very short amount of time. So we were able to fill the maximum. And the first thing they did was meet and determine a chair. This chair is Giselle Palmer. Appointed a secretary, Carol Bryant. The remaining members of the advisory board were Becky Browder, Chad Bullard, Randy Leviota, Robin Pitkin Parker, Julia Rocks, and Jennifer Webster. And I have to say, it was a delightful group of people. The 10 of us really had a good time. Can I say that? Yeah. It was, we were all self-identified monks, and we just ate this stuff up. So guilty as charged. So there was a diverse citizen membership. Arnold and I were there to do what we could to support his staff. And I have to brag a little bit about Arnold. There's no better municipal attorney in the state of Tennessee than Arnold A. Stolzschutter. We're blessed to have him on our team. So it was a balanced collaborative process between citizens with a fresh set of eyes and some older hands and staff. And it was delightful. So that's who we were.
And I would say that it definitely was a very diverse group. And when on the first night when we all introduced ourselves, everybody was just like from different walks of life, different jobs, different perspectives. And I think that really helped. That was my desire going in, was I was really hoping that it would be that kind of a group, and it really was.
Yes, yes, it was delightful. And especially through our diversity. Review of the process and scope of work. We convened, we established bylaws, and we met for 3 consecutive Tuesdays, and it was about 2 hours each session. And agendas and minutes are available for review. We will get them posted on our website as we move towards the referendum. All the body of work that we did will be up there for everybody. The committee reviewed Red Bank's charter as it is. Part of it is available on the website right now, always has been, but not all of it, and I'll have a little bit more to say about that. From 2000, we did look at the commission charter statutes that are current and our home rule amendments in total, which I'd never seen, actually. And so I'm glad to say that Arnold did a lot of forensic work, actually contacted elections commissions and did a lot of, I call it forensic administration, where we pieced back together what is actually our charter, because it had fallen out, completely disappeared. Legislative, of course, really the big thing that drove this was the fact that we're not compliant with election law. And so now we will be back in compliance, hopefully at the end of this referendum. So recommendations focus on clarity, consistency, and long-term usability of the home rule charter. We want to be able to explain it to everybody. It was always a mystery to me exactly what was in and not in, and we are now in a strong position to explain to anybody, and that is the public, candidates for office, commissioners, staff, new staff, anybody who wants to know what is the foundational documents of our city, we can answer that question now.
Can't remember if it's on the next slide or not, but just kind of as an overview for anyone who is interested or any citizens who are listening. Like our first meeting, we just got a lot of background on the history of the city and what a charter is, and we got a lot of great stories and understanding of like what's the purpose of this, what are home rule amendments, and all of that. Then our second meeting, we really went through that charter like section by section by section. We had all prepared in advance, read, took notes on any questions that we had. We were able to ask questions, Arnold and Martin, and kind of get a lot of things clarified. We had 2 citizens who attended that meeting as observers, so that was great. And then on our third meeting, we were just really focused on making sure that we kind of had a plan in place for how we could move forward with this and put it in a clear way on the ballot so that citizens could understand what this was about. And so,
A third member of the charter CAB just arrived in. Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, sorry, Mike.
So yay, we're glad you're here. Core principles, preserving home rule status, that was part of the resolution that created the CAB, but it became clear to all of us that that was absolutely the right thing to proceed forward with. Retain our city manager form of government, and I'll have a little bit more to say about that as we really unpack the statutes. But those were kind of two touchstones in this review process. Retain home rule status, retain our form of government, which is an elected commission at large, and the commission then selects a mayor and a vice mayor, and a professional city manager that reports to the commission. And it is essentially the chief executive of the city. That is the city manager form of government that we have. Not all cities in Tennessee, about 110 cities in Tennessee have a very similar form of government. But we don't have to look far to see one that's wired together differently. Chattanooga, they have a different form of government. Modernizing the charter language with the 2026 statute, and of course improving readability. So this down on the right is actually where you can see our charter right now. This is on our government. Over here, the charter PDF, oops, is actually there. It's not the entire charter. Thank you, Giselle. This is where it will be when it's refreshed. Primary recommendation is to continue forward with the goal for getting this on the 3 November 2026 municipal election. Interestingly enough, as a byproduct of this process, there are no election dates set for 2027. There's none established because it's out of cycle for everything. So if we were to slip off this date, it's an entirely unknown when there would be another date for an election opportunity. We would probably have to create a date and then carry the full burden of that cost as a city. So something we definitely want to avoid. Statutory framework basis. The charter rests upon chapters 18 through 22. And I'm actually going to skip ahead a slide and we'll come back here. So why 18 through 22? That's a very good question. It all comes back to Title VI of the Tennessee Code Annotated. Title VI, the name is cities and towns. And it's basically the state's government for all cities and towns, how they operate. It governs municipal governments in Tennessee. Within Title VI, the General Assembly has established several charter systems. Red Bank operates under the City Manager Commission Charter, which is laid out in chapters 18 through 22. That's why 1 through 17 generally don't apply to us. That's why our charter starts in chapter 18. I always wondered. And that defines our governmental structure. Other chapters establish other forms of government, including the Mayor Aldermanic Charter and the Modified City Manager Council Charter, just as an example. So that's why we begin at 18 through 22. And we are going to incorporate home rule amendments, a selection, not all of them. And then the approach maintains a consistency with state law and our home rule status. Home rule authority ensures local voters control the city charter, reinforcing community accountability and governance autonomy. It preserves the city manager role as we've currently experienced it since the city was created. This is nothing new. And, you know, I'm a member of the International City Managers Association, ICMA. There are thousands of cities across the US and around the world that basically use this similar form of government. And it's not just cities either. A lot of counties have that as well, where it's a hired professional chief executive that reports to the elected body, which is basically the legislative body. It sets policy, approves budgets, but then turns it over to the chief executive to run day-to-day operations. City Commission responsibilities: serves as a legislative and policy-making body, guiding city governments and decision-making processes. The mayor's role in this form of government presides over meetings and represents the city, focusing on leadership and public representation duties. Later on this evening, we'll have some more talk about the mayor and the bully pulpit that the mayor has very effectively regionally, even though it's not codified in the charter per se. Here's where we get into the selected amendments. So the bulk of our charter is chapters 18 through 22 of Title VI. the 2026 version. We're not adopting different charters from the current charter, certainly 2000. We're just updating the current version of it. It's still 18 through 22, but they fixed a lot of things. You know, our use of language has changed considerably since then. So it's just an updated, it reads like an updated document rather than like a dated document. Although you still have to be a bit of a wonk to slog through it. It is legislation. It's not really meant to be read by casually. So home rule and municipal identity, retaining these broadly speaking are the home rule amendments that we're retaining. The ones that speak to our home rule and are literally our geographic shape. We are preserving the annexations that took place after our incorporation. Those are home rule amendments, and they largely are the western nub, as I call it, which includes the middle school and high school and Godsey Ridge Park. It also retains the judicial provisions, and there's two of them that create our court of concurrent jurisdiction where we prosecute state crimes in a municipal court. And there's only 23 of those in the state of Tennessee that are so empowered. So we run a very sophisticated court where we prosecute state crimes. And that sets us apart as well. And that all stems from the power that Home Rule Amendment gave us. The people gave us that power behind the Home Rule Amendment. And then consistent with that empowerment, we then have to have a judge that is sufficiently recognized by the court system. That means an 8-year term. And so all the process and procedures around a judge that apply to a general sessions judge applies to our municipal judge. Accountability and oversight, maintaining the charter review committees and recall procedures. We actually have recall procedures for elected commissioners, and then preserving the historic annexations. Those broadly speak into the home rule amendments.
Mr. Graham, really just quickly, on the judicial election, you will remind me in a typical election year, because we have a special judge election this year in August. Is it usually on the August ballot?
Yes.
Okay.
That's because our city court judge is in effect a state court judge. And all state court judges by the Constitution are, I think it's by the Constitution, are elected in August. So there are terms of state court judges that kind of are on a 8 years, I mean, 2-year or so staggered term. But once you're on the 8-year cycle, that's the way it works. And then if a vacancy occurs, then it's the quote next following August general election.
Thank you.
But while we're talking about that, Mr. Schultz, this is just to complete Johnny's original term, right?
That's right.
Okay.
This upcoming election is only through the 2030 election cycle.
Okay, thank you. And this just listed out in a little more detail, the broad ones and the dates that they came into existence by home rule. Giselle, do you want to talk about the home rule stuff?
Once again, we went through each of these and kind of discussed each one and why it made sense to continue it or to discontinue it. So and that was something where we all had a chance to discuss and share thinking about that. So yes.
And here are the ones we're not continuing. On the left, I just took a picture of the ones stacked up there, and I'll just go down them on the left. Filling vacancies on commission, we didn't discontinue that because the charter now very thoroughly speaks to that, the standard charter 18 through 22. So we didn't really need it as a home rule amendment. We no longer have a justice of the peace, so that was just kind of OBE. The residency requirements is probably where we had the most conversation, and oddly enough, there is a home rule amendment that requires residency for a number of key staff, and it didn't seem to fit, what we wanted to do anymore. So the CAB, after a very significant conversation about that, recommends that not be retained. And then, of course, the bottom left is really the driver for this. We're not consistent with state law. We are now, but previously we were out of compliance. Is there anything you had about those? We're not.
No. That's pretty much, that's it.
And here we are, it was a great group, preserving home rule authority, modernizing the charter, improving transparency and accountability and readability, I would add. And there's really our target groups for residents, officials, candidates, and staff. I'd like to be able to hand every candidate for commission a readable, coherent city charter. And final recommendation is that we act on, from the CAB, that we act on this, and the rest of this evening will actually implement that. From left to right, it's Chad, Robin, Giselle, Carol, Jennifer, Arnold in the back, Julia in the front, Becky, Randy, and myself. And it was, again, just a delight.
We had a lot of fun. I don't know if any of us really knew exactly what we were getting into when we started, but it was a great opportunity to discuss and go through a lot of those things, hear different people's ideas, and learn a lot about our city. And we had a great time.
It was a moment of local government at its finest, where you bring members of the community together, really have a conversation about how local government does work, should work, and make sure that everything is going in a satisfactory way. It was uplifting through that lens. So local government at its very best. Thank you, Giselle, and thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. And thank you all the Charter Review Board members for volunteering their time on very short notice. We really appreciate you all being plugged in and engaged. All right. Any comments, questions about anything presented in the report? Board volunteers. All right. We'll move on to item 10, first reading to amend the city charter pursuant to home rule via referendum at the November 2026 election, ordinance number 26-1315. Mr. Raymond.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. And this is definitely just a continuation. I will add that procedurally, in your work session packet was the CAB's report. In the regular session packet is a resolution that receives and approves the CAB report, and also thanks the CAB members for their work. So that's the resolution. Now to our topic, specifically on this agenda item, the ordinance, which actually implements the CAB's recommendation. And the commission has to pass an ordinance to refer it to the voters, and so an ordinance takes two readings. This is the first reading of the ordinance that basically refers to the voters the 2026 chapters 18 through 22 of Title VI of Tennessee Code Annotated, plus the selected home rule amendments that I listed off. And so 18 through 22 plus the home rule amendments, that constitutes our city charter, and that's the heart of this ordinance. And Arnold, is there anything particular about the ordinance that you would like to comment on?
It signifies the commission's approval of these suggested changes and report, and initiates the process for a referendum to be submitted to the voters.
Thank you. Quick question, is the amended version of the charter available online for our residents to read? So they know what they're voting on?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We will, I was waiting for first reading, then we'll put it all out there on the website. All the body work the CAB did, minutes, agendas, bylaws, all that. And then also really the heart of what we're after, the current version of 18 through 22 plus the home rule amendments in one clean PDF. So you click on this one PDF, that's our charter. You don't have to piece together any separate documents. And that will be on the webpage later this week. Yes, kind of in the same spot, I think, is where our current charter is. But I got together with I have to get together with smart people on the web yet and figure out where we're going to do this. I think we're going to repurpose one of those 9 buttons on the homepage. It just says charter, and you click there, and you'll go right to where this is going to be housed. But yes, short answer is it will be available, and we hope everybody reads it.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any questions?
Regarding the referendum, do we know what the specific language of the referendum will be on the ballot yet?
We do not.
No, but it'll be close to, a yes or no vote on a question that will read something in the nature of, should the city charter of the city of Red Bank, Tennessee be amended by deleting the the year 2000 standard statutory charter and substituting in its place the current 2026 statutory charter, retaining home rule amendments and a description of them, not setting them out because you'd be talking pages and pages, and releasing or disaffirming home rule amendments, which were in the nature of the three things mentioned.
This is a pretty thick block on the ballot.
It will be a block, but it won't be, you don't have the verbatim stuff, I mean, which is unwieldy and extremely expensive, and not unnecessary. We promise we'll make it as readable as much as such things are able to be made readable.
And it puts the burden on us as staff to have an information and awareness campaign to really explain what this is all about. And the first big step in that direction was the CAB itself, where we really gathered up a lot of very interested people in the community. They can go forward and talk to their neighbors about what this is all about. So I think my hope is that by the time November rolls around, there'll be a high level of understanding across the city about what this is really intended to do.
Any further questions?
Just a statement that my hope is with a significant number of candidates vying for 3 open seats on the Red Bank Commission this November on the same ballot, I'm hoping that all of the candidates running will use the opportunity campaigning to also help disseminate awareness and information about this charter referendum.
All right, moving on to item 11, public hearing and first reading for a rezoning request for 3714 Reading Road from R1 to RTZ, ordinance number 26-1311. Mr. Bam.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. I wanted to start, I know that 3 of your ordinances tonight are for RTZ zone. And even though this is the majority of the rezonings that come before you and have for the past 5 or 6 years, I wanted to review where the RTZ zone came from, why it's so common. So just to start with, the RTZ zone was established in 2015, which is a long time ago, and yet we're still using it more often than any other zone. And it was established in the zoning ordinance, which we call it 15-1020. And presumably that was based on the Red Bank 2035 plan, which was the city's general plan. And that document is a state mandated responsibility of the Planning Commission. It's their job to adopt a general plan. Obviously, the legislative body makes that legally binding. So the RTZ zone has authority, and it's been used as such since then. An extension of the general plan is the subdivision regulations and the zoning code, which is where we house the development standards of the RTZ zone. And they consider the question, in what ways will space be regulated in both the public and private realm? It's basically our laws about that. So they both continue the process of shaping land use patterns and guiding the housing stock of the city, essentially. In the 2035 plan, there's a handful of goals that relate to the RTZ zone, and I just wanted to read those for you so we understand why did they develop this zone in the first place. And the quotation in the goal is stabilize residential community, increase property values by stopping the continued proliferation and reverse the negative impact of spot zones for inappropriately located duplexes and multifamily dwellings. That's straight out of the comprehensive plan at that time. There's another goal that says attract residential developers back to Red Bank for new development and redevelopment. And the third goal related to this, which is increase value of and protect single family residential development. And then the three for the RTZ zone they consider it a lower density alternative to the RT1 and RZ1 zones, which are both townhouse / patio home zones. The zone incorporates requirements that are more compatible with single-family housing zones. So essentially, the RTZ zone was established so that the need for housing could be accommodated by this zone in single-family neighborhoods. And my predecessor, Ashley Gates, and the Southeast Tennessee Development District, every time in their recommendations for the Planning Commission, they would say the general plan nor the zoning code define where the RTZ zone should be exactly instituted. And so it's been used all over R1 zones and R2 zones as a way to mediate between multifamily developments that were happening at the time and the single family developments that have been in place for decades. So when we look at the rezoning considerations for the next 3 ordinances, just try to keep that in mind. So for this one, which is the Reading Road, almost catty corner from the Kids Corner Park and the pickleball courts, this is I believe it's about 100 feet wide, and the developer is planning on subdividing it into 2 lots and building 2 single-family homes. I don't show it on the zoning map, but there's a handful of duplexes in this neighborhood. There's a multifamily project across the street. So there's actually quite a diverse type of housing in the area. And what the developer is proposing is something very standard, 2 single-family houses. And so the Planning Commission reviewed it and unanimously voted to approve it, and the staff recommendation is also to approve.
So,
Any questions?
do you have any comments from any neighbors
Uh,
at the planning commission meeting?
we did. We had at least one who came forward just to clarify what the development was going to be. I think there was some concern that it would be attached townhomes, just because of the nature of the name RTZ, residential townhomes in your lot line. But it is in fact 2 single-family detached structures.
On that note, I would also just like to clarify that just because it says townhome in the zone name does not mean that that is what is being proliferately developed across our community. I did receive an email today. I think there's some confusion from some folks because townhome is in the name, that they think that when that's getting rezoned to that it's going to be townhomes. But it actually allows for single-family homes, 0 lot line development of those single-family homes, right?
Yeah.
Detached homes.
And I'll also mention, just for education, that any attached structure is significantly harder and more expensive to build now because it requires much more substantial fire protection. And so we're probably going to see, and that's by the building code, that's not by the zoning code. And so we're probably going to see a lot more single-family detached. We've been seeing more single-family detached. We have very few new townhouse developments in Irving. So, thank you.
Any questions or comments about that rezoning request?
I just wanted to clarify, the map that we're looking at on the screen, the colors represent red, it's commercial, and yellow is currently zoned R1.
Yes.
However, as you were saying, across the street at the corner of Leawood and Reading is a multifamily unit. It's not even a duplex, it's a multiplex.
Yes.
Yeah,
Actually.
that's right. But that's not represented in the color coding of that map. So that is, those existing structures are legal non-conforming.
Yes.
So the zoning picture that we're looking at here does not actually reflect the current use of that land.
Yeah, it is a bit misleading. But it goes to show that you can build housing in an area that is inconspicuous, even though it might be multifamily, even though it might have attached walls. So.
All right. Any other questions or comments, Mr. Ham, on that rezoning request? Great. If not, we will move on to the next one. Item 12, public hearing and first reading for a rezoning request for 306 California Avenue from R1 to RTZ, ordinance number 26-1312. Mr. Ham.
Yeah, so same situation basically where it's an RTZ zone, still a proposition for single family detached houses. And again, with the RTZ zone, what we see often is that the lot width allowed in the RTZ zone is less than 60 feet. In the R1 zone, you have to have at least 60 feet of road frontage. And here we have a lot that's, I believe there's over 100 feet of road frontage. And so the RTZ zone would allow the property owner to divide it and build a few more houses. They're proposing 3 on the front, and then a flag lot would go behind those 3 lots. And there was no known previous structures behind here. There may be some steep slope, which you adopted a steep slope ordinance. So when it comes to the building permit phase, they'll have to abide by those. And the planning commission, there was a unanimous vote and approval. There was some concern about those steep slopes and the tree canopy. But again, unanimous vote to approve, and the staff recommendation is to approve as well.
Can you talk about the flag lot and any parameters on the flag lot?
You do have a standalone flag lot ordinance, which it's actually more restrictive than the RTZ zone itself. It only allows 1 structure per lot, so there's no way that flag lot could be cut up into pieces and more houses built on it. There's a width requirement on what we would call the pole of the flag. It's 25 feet. Our subdivision regulations require a public street to have at least 50 feet, so there's no way that we could make that a public road at this point, make it a public road and create more lots off that pole. So, yes. At this juncture, it would still all just be single-family detached houses.
Any questions or comments about that? Reasons?
So I have a question. So there was some concern about the number of structures on this particular property, the back of it, the flag and environmental impacts later on. And then this may be in further conversations, but because it's city spot zone, like we do one thing at a time, when we look at land use in the future, will we maybe we'll have to do these one piece at a time? That's not a good question. So, but there was some concern over the amount, and so I went and looked, and it is a narrow road, but there seems to be in that ridge area, like a lot of hanging off the side of the ridge, like Sims and California Peachtree, all of it. So I don't know how this would be. How is this different, I guess, than those historically?
Yeah. So like I said, the steep slope ordinance is really your best friend in this case when it comes to hillside development, and it's strict, which is why we haven't seen a lot of development on the ridges, because the engineering standards required to go through that are rigorous. So at this rezoning level, we don't really consider the steep slope. When it gets into building permits and plat submittal, then we have actually a couple partners to help us with that, which would be Hamilton County Water Quality. They have stormwater engineers that look at runoff and they do hydrology calculations. That would be a huge burden for us to live, and so I'm really glad that at the plat submittal level, we have those partners. And then the steep slope ordinance itself, Eddie Clinton, our building official, he always requires standard engineered plans for stabilizing the slopes if you're going to disturb those beyond the thresholds that are allowed. And so those are really what we have in place to protect the hillside development. And for public safety, if anyone comes in and buys that house, then we can fall back on those engineering standards and the county stormwater engineers when it comes to the hydrology stuff.
So what you say before the steep slopes ordinance, that is why we have some of the homes that we do have, because we put them there with no.
Yeah. So it was a great thing to adopt that steep slope ordinance because we see patterns of slope failure around the city. I could point out a couple of examples, but maybe not necessarily for this conversation. So, but it's a good thing that we have those steep slope ordinances in place now.
Although it's relatively recent
Yes.
in comparison to the development of most of the existing residential properties in the city.
Yes, well, yes, we pushed for that really hard to get the steep slopes ordinance adopted, because of the multiple failed projects we saw in Chattanooga, particularly on many of the steep slope areas there. So we wanted to try to more proactively, address that for future land that hasn't been developed on, so. And then as a reminder, I think Commissioner Holmes, you understood the flag lot can only have one structure on it because of the standalone flag lot ordinance, okay? At this point in time, but we are in progress on our Unified Development Code, which will be updating our land use regulations and zoning ordinance to be compatible with our comprehensive plan that we adopted.
Correct.
right now, we're kind of in limbo. We have an
Right.
updated comprehensive plan, but we do not have updated regulations land use regulations that actually help make those reality. So, that's why we're seeing a lot of rezonings. And again, the RTZ, the title of it can be misleading, but it is the best tool that we have available to us now to help achieve some of those goals that are in the comprehensive plan. So hopefully, once the UDC or a modified version of such comes on board, it'll answer a lot more questions and pave the way for unique developments with unique standards. So we know that's in the works. It takes time, but to continue to respond to development and the needs of the community, trying to, again, find the best outcome for the situation we're in.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments about this rezoning request? All right, if not, we'll move on to item 13, public hearing and first reading for a rezoning request for 4717 Hawk Den Trail from R1 to RTZ, ordinance number 26-1313. Okay.
Yeah, again, an RTZ request, and almost the exact same program. The property owner is gonna cut in 4 lots and build 4 single-family detached houses. And it's also proposing to pave the public right-of-way, which is right now known as Hawk Den Trail, but it is in fact public right-of-way. And so we're gonna work closely with Public Works to make sure that that street is built to an acceptable standard. And again, planning commission heard public comments and no one came forward and said absolutely not. So our planning commissioners voted yes for that staff recommendation as well. Is to approve.
You said 4 lots, but the plan that's attached, it has 5.
My mistake then.
Okay. I wasn't sure if plans had changed.
I've only received 1 site plan for it,
Okay.
so I might have just misspoken.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So despite the visual appearance of this lot on the map that we're looking at, it does not count as a flag lot that we just discussed. And the flag lot ordinance does not apply to it because that road, the driveway, what I would, looking from the street would consider a driveway is actually technically a private road, public road.
No, it's an unimproved public right of way right now.
Right away.
Thank you for the specific language.
It is very, very specific, which gives it a lot of parameters that go with it. Which we will start seeing more and more of these. They are platted, they are unimproved, they may be being used as driveways. But that's where we do work with Public Works and of course through our department to make sure that developments are responsible to improve those public right of ways for their particular development standards.
Mr. Vick, if I'm correct, I do live in that area, there is a house directly in front,
Yes.
correct? And the homeowners did not express any concerns?
No, in fact, they came to multiple meetings because this project has undergone a handful of different iterations and they came almost every single time.
Okay.
Just for educational purposes. Yeah, I believe right now the lot has kind of been a dump. It's just been kind of piles of fill dirt from the previous property owner. And so the person who owns it right now is Gordon Hogan, who's come before you before and requested rezone. He's a local builder, local resident. And so the lot will certainly be improved by his work on it.
Mayor,
Thank you. Mr. Grant,
may I ask a question and then make a statement?
please.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm not trying to stunt you, Michael. To the east of that property, basically down below it as you're looking at it, looks like there's a right of way. Is it right of way?
The property is technically on a corner of right of way. There's a
Right.
right of way that comes from Dayton Boulevard down from the page, and then the right of way turns 90 degrees and heads towards Wickwood.
Right. Is there any request to dissolve that right of way or is it activated? They don't want to come in on that right of way. They want to create their own right of way on the west side.
He may request a abandonment of right of way, but not at this point.
Okay. And he doesn't want to activate and come into his lots from the existing right of way?
From the Dayton right of way?
No, from the right of way coming off of Wickley
that runs north-south. So,
That's where it is.
That's where it is.
Yeah, he is.
oh, okay.
Yes, he will improve that.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And here's my statement, Mayor. Thank you, Michael. You've done a great job tonight, Michael, but that's not my statement. My statement is, these three are all coming from three local builders. These three ordinances that we're looking at are each from local builders who have a long history of working here in Red Bank, and they're doing marvelous work. And I just am very pleased at the interactions they're having with staff, for us as staff to facilitate what they're trying to do, and grateful for their investment in infill construction, which is very, an important piece of Red Bank in the future is going to be increasingly smartly developing these opportunities within our established neighborhoods. And so we have a great pool of capable and laudable local developers, and the three that are referred to tonight are excellent examples of that.
I'll also add one more thing that I think is cool. If you saw these three developments on a map, you'd see that we're actually developing the north end, central Red Bank, and south Red Bank in a pretty balanced way. So I just thought that was really cool. Actually, we have an active projects dashboard on the website under the community development department that you can see all of our active projects under, and you can see that there's a plethora of things going on all across the city, which I think is positive.
Very positive. Thank you so much, Mr. Van. Any other questions or comments about this rezoning request? Perfect.
I just want to comment about all three of these rezoning requests collectively and in context of our unified development code that is pending. When we have developers who are building what we want for them to build, ideally we will have a situation where they won't have to come through and do this burdensome multi-meeting, months-long approval process. If they're building what we wanted them to build in the first place, it will be allow them right and they can move along with their business. So,
Streamlining that process is
Yes.
critical.
yes, very
Absolutely.
much so. So I look forward to.
Can I get an amen, John?
I look forward to our unified development code bringing, streamlining this process considerably for both staff and our developers who are acting in good faith to do what is, in harmony with our vision for the future of our city.
Well said.
Thank you, Mr. Van. Our final item of voting business, item 14, first reading to update solid waste fee ordinance for the Public Works Department Solid Waste Division. Ordinance number 26-1314. Director Kidd.
Thank you, Mayor. So I've got a slide that Solid Waste Supervisor Scott Johnson prepared. He originally was going to come present this himself, but due to the crunch on time, I gave him the night off. So we're here to discuss a sanitation fee adjustment from $16 monthly per residential unit to $24.55 a month. Oh, this is one of the fancy slides. Okay, so the current solid waste fund situation, in FY 27, we have projected revenue of $1,024,000. The FY 27 solid waste proposed budget of $1,265,790, which causes a use of fund balance of $241,790. And at the end of FY 27, there's expected to remain a fund balance of $23,312. And without an increase to the solid waste user fee, as it is currently ordained by the municipal code in Title 17, the solid waste fund cannot sustain the current level of operations that our residents expect from year to year without a major decrease in those services. So just for history's sake, the sanitation fee was established in 2009 at $16 per household per month. And it has remained unchanged for 17 years while inflationary costs have steadily increased. The cost includes fuel costs, vehicle maintenance, tire prices, landfill fees, trash can replacements, mandated CDL driver training, regulatory compliance have all increased. And over the last 17 years, inflation has risen at a rate of plus or minus 4%. When I went back and the city manager did it in office too, and come to the same conclusion. When you go back to 2009 and you try to figure what that inflationary increase is, it comes up to almost exactly 4% year over year. You know, there's some years it was 7%, some years it was 3% maybe, but on average it's 4% per year. And to sustain that, that looks like that's going to be the trend that's ongoing from now on. So Scott did some work for me, and he found out, he looked at some of our sister municipalities and found out that East Ridge charges $17 per month for residential and $22 a month for commercial trash service, which they raised that to 17 and 22 in 2025. They also have a population of 22,000, which is almost double what ours is. So, you know, you take that $1 million we're getting and double it, we'd be a little bit better off if we had 22,000, but then there's also that much more demand. They also have a large commercial tax base that we lack, and they don't provide, there's some mixed conversations that they typically don't provide bulk curbside pickup. You have to take your trash to a pit there and deposit it, and then they haul it off, the city hauls it off from there. Now, I've heard some information contrary to that, but that is the information that we have gotten from people that live in the city of East Ridge. So they don't provide any curbside pickup. They also charge $60 a year per can for an additional garbage can, which is not uncommon. And then we looked at Saudi Daisy. You know, there was an article in the Chattanooga just last night about Saudi Daisy just renewing a contract. I went and took a look at that contract, and the previous contract was for $600,000 a year for, I think it was capital waste, to pick up just their household garbage. The city also picks up limited brush and bulk, but you're limited to 2 per year, and they offer no extra services other than that. And that operation is funded out of the general fund. They don't have a solid waste user fee.
Kate, if you're referencing, I think the article that I remember.
Probably so.
They're not getting their trash picked up consistently.
This is true too. And that's the risk you run with commercial garbage service. You know, if their driver's out, they just don't run that day. If their truck's tore up, they may not run for 2 weeks. So those kind of things that you have to deal with. Then he looked at private haulers, and household garbage is typically $30 to $60 a month for weekly household trash. And the local range is 30 to 50, looking at the different companies, K&K Capital, and I can't remember the other one he looked at, KK 5-star. They typically $30 to $50 a month, and that's just to empty your garbage can once a week. Some places will do it twice a week. You know, if that's the contract that they have. Bulky items, some charge extra if they even offer bulky item pickup. They charge $75 to $150 per ton, and heavy materials like concrete and shingles and dirt, $150 to $240 per ton, plus labor, plus fuel, plus travel overhead, and a profit margin. They don't do any used motor oil, antifreeze, or tire disposal. But what Red Bank citizens get, they get weekly household garbage collection. They get year-round bulky item removal and brush removal. They get seasonal leaf collection, walk-up service for vulnerable residents, used motor oil and antifreeze pickup, and used tire disposal. Not to mention the fact they get friendly service from all of our drivers and all of our operators. And if we make a mistake, or if the resident makes a mistake, we go back and fix it. And that's a service that most municipalities just don't provide. We also looked at Signal Mountain, their detailed service model and fee schedule. They run zone brush pickup, and they divide the city into zones and pick up a zone at a time. Bulk trash is collected once per quarter. All curbside operations are funded through property taxes and no separate monthly sanitation fee. Their off-schedule pickup request that they provide is $35 per load, plus an item-based add-on. They add $10 for every, in addition to the $35, they add $10 if they're picking up mattresses. And then they add $65 if they're picking up appliances. And then for an additional garbage can, they charge $240 one-time fee, then $20 a month for the extra can that's billed quarterly. So what we put together, and I'll go over the ordinance here briefly in just a second, a recommendation for the city commission to adopt a user fee of $24.55 per residential unit, This is an $8.55 per month increase effective in FY '27. And the impact on the solid waste division is this fee increase will fund employee benefits and allowances, covers ongoing operational expenses, generates approximately $150,000 annually for a dedicated capital replacement fund to support vehicle replacement and other future capital needs, which is something that our fund just cannot handle right now. We've had some issues in the last 2 or 3 years with getting equipment in, and it caused a finding on the audit report because we ordered a truck 2.5 years earlier and it came in, and there's a little issue. Everybody understands all that. And so this plan here, raising the fee and then staying on top of the fee, we will be able to sustain operations years to come, and we'll be able to keep a capital program in the solid waste division that will keep it funded throughout. Now, that doesn't mean that the 2455 is necessarily going to be the last increase, because you go back to the 4% inflation year over year, that adds up. So we'll have to look at this again. But when this opportunity comes up again for us to take another look at this, we also have the resolution that was passed in 25, Resolution 1798, the Comprehensive Table of Fees. And Title 17, the Solid Waste Fund, User Fund, is part of that table, but it's currently set at $16 per month. So we will update that on the second reading. We'll have a follow-on resolution to update that table to reflect. Now, a couple of things I wanted to point out in the actual ordinance itself right quick. We are requesting it to be raised to $24.55, which is an $8.50 per month increase. Currently, the fee, if you want a second garbage can, you noticed on that one slide, Single Mountain charges an additional garbage can fee of $240. Well, if you wanted an additional garbage can, it costs you $192, which is the same garbage fee, just to have a second can. I've often thought that was unfair to residents, and I wanted to adjust that. So what Scott and I did, we figured out that just to have a second can at that location only costs about $6.50 extra a month for us to pick it up. You're already there at the house. You empty one, you empty the other one. It doesn't cost $192, in my opinion, to empty that second can. And so to give our residents some relief, we're not going to charge a double fee based on the $24.55. We're going to charge a $65 a year addition. It's a $75. It's a $6.50 a month additional if you want a second can, and that's still paying less than if you had two under the old price. So it will cost some relief to some people that choose to do that. I also included in some language in section 17107. The only thing that was really addressed was commercial properties. Small commercial properties were only allowed 2 cans, but it didn't say anything about LLCs. Now, since I've been here, we've got a lot of apartment complexes that are owned by LLCs, and there's nothing in the language that says LLC. But most of the apartment complexes were paying $384 a year just for bulk trash pickup. But it doesn't say that in here. It doesn't say it's just bulk trash pickup. It doesn't say that we charge them 2 times. Now it does. Now it says that if you are an apartment complex operating under an LLC or a commercial ownership, that you will pay 4 times the solid waste user fee. It's around $1,178 a year, because the only service that this ordinance stipulates they get is bulk trash pickup for when they evict someone and they set their stuff out for us to pick up anyway, which they do, whether they pay or not. They put it out on our right of way and they just leave it. So now if they want that service, they're going to have to pay 4 times the user fee. And then that way we'll pick their bulk trash up when that happens and have sufficient funds to cover the cost. I've had some apartment complexes in the past that's put stuff out 5 or 6 times a year. Well, you pick up twice in a year, you've exceeded that $384 cost that they were expense that they were paying. And so now if they want the service, they're going to have to pay for it. Right quickly, there's just some other things in here. And that's it. I'll just take some questions now.
Okay, maybe we can, this is its ordinance, so we will be having further discussion on it during the regular meeting. Is it okay to postpone questions until that time, Director Tate? Okay, thank you so much. We will go ahead and move to citizen comments on items on this work session agenda. Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the time for citizen comments. Please observe these rules. Comments are limited to 2 minutes during work session or less, and the city recorder will operate a timer. If time expires, please respect her direction and conclude any comments. Comments should be addressed to the board as a whole and not to a particular commissioner or to city staff or to the audience. The commission is here to listen, not to respond or engage in back and forth, so please do not expect a reply during citizen comments. Citizens are now invited to the podium. Please begin by stating your name and address.
Don't have any comments on items on this work session agenda. Is there any other business to discuss? Okay. All right, in that case, we'll go ahead and adjourn our work session and we will return at 6 p.m. for our regular meeting. Thank you.